No army ever marched on an empty stomach. No empire rose on swords alone. And Rome, vast, ruthless, brilliant Rome, was not built first on marble or iron, but on soil. Dark soil, worked soil, soil turned by hands that history rarely names. Before the Senate spoke, before legions crossed rivers, before emperors crowned themselves gods, someone had to plant the grain. And for nearly 1,000 years, Rome solved a problem that still haunts the modern world. How do you feed millions year after year without collapsing the land beneath your feet? The answer was not simple, and much of it has been forgotten. The forgotten foundation. When modern people imagine Rome, they see stone. They see the Colosseum rising against the sky, aqueducts striding across valleys like frozen rivers, roads so straight they seem to defy nature itself. But the true Roman miracle was quieter. It lay beyond the city walls, in fields that no longer exist, in techniques no textbook fully explains, in agricultural systems so efficient that an ancient city of over 1 million people survived, without refrigeration, without fossil fuels, without modern machinery. This was not accidental. It was engineered. Long before Rome ruled the Mediterranean, Italy was an unforgiving land. The soil was uneven, the climate unpredictable. Floods destroyed crops one year, droughts starved them the next. Early Roman farmers faced a cruel reality. If they failed one season, they didn't just lose money, they lost survival. So necessity forced innovation, and innovation, over centuries, hardened into tradition. Roman agriculture was not born brilliant. It became brilliant through failure. The Roman farmer's world. Most Roman citizens were not senators, they were not soldiers, they were farmers. At dawn, before the city stirred, fields were already alive. Oxen pulled wooden plows tipped with iron. Hands pressed seeds into earth with rituals older than memory. Children learned soil before letters. The Roman farmer did not farm blindly. He observed. Which slopes drained best after rain? Which soil darkened under manure? Which winds carried frost? This observational knowledge, passed orally, refined relentlessly, became Rome's first agricultural secret. Crop rotation, Rome's silent weapon. Modern textbooks often credit medieval Europe with crop rotation. That credit is incomplete. Roman farmers practiced complex rotational systems centuries earlier. Wheat did not return to the same field year after year. Legumes, beans, lentils, peas followed grains. Fields were deliberately rested, but never wasted. Romans understood something crucial. Legumes fed the soil. They did not know nitrogen by name, but they knew its effect. Fields planted with legumes yielded stronger grain the following season. Livestock grazing those fields grew healthier. Manure returned richer nutrients to the land. This cycle, grain, legume, rest, allowed Roman fields to remain productive for generations. Where other civilizations exhausted their land, Rome maintained it. The science hidden in ritual. Roman farming looked religious. Sacrifices before planting, festivals timed to harvest, prayers whispered into furrows. But beneath ritual lay observation. Festivals aligned with seasonal realities. Sacrifices marked labor transitions. Religion functioned as memory, a way to encode agricultural timing into culture. When Rome expanded, it did not erase local farming traditions, it absorbed them. Greek viticulture, Etruscan drainage systems, Celtic grain practices. Rome did not impose one agricultural system, it curated the best of all. Engineering the land itself. Rome did not just farm land, it reshaped it. Marshes were drained using canals and underground tiles. Hillsides were terraced with stone retaining walls. Floodplains were controlled with embankments. These were not short-term solutions. Some Roman drainage systems remained functional for over 1,000 years. Even today, in parts of Italy and France, modern farmers unknowingly plant crops along Roman-engineered water paths. The empire's greatest engineers were not building temples, they were building fields. Feeding the monster city. Rome was an anomaly. No ancient city should have survived at that scale. Over 1 million mouths, every day, every year. Local farms could not do it alone, so Rome built an agricultural empire. Grain flowed from Sicily, then North Africa, then Egypt. But here is the forgotten truth. Rome did not simply extract grain, it reorganized agriculture. Provincial lands were surveyed, soil quality recorded, crops assigned based on regional strengths. Egypt grew grain, Gaul grew livestock, Spain produced olive oil. This was not exploitation alone, it was logistical genius. Olive oil, Rome's liquid gold. Olive oil was not a luxury, it was fuel, food, medicine, light. Roman estates cultivated olives with obsessive care. Trees were pruned scientifically. Harvest timing was precise. Pressing techniques maximized yield without bitterness. Olive oil amphoras were standardized for transport efficiency. Labels recorded origin, quality, date. Rome tracked its food like a modern supply chain. Monte Testaccio, a massive hill in Rome, still exists today, made entirely of discarded olive oil amphoras. It is a landfill of abundance, a monument to agricultural success. Why these secrets were lost. When Rome fell, its farms did not burn overnight, but systems require maintenance. Drainage tiles clogged, terraces collapsed, knowledge fragmented. Feudalism simplified agriculture. Short-term survival replaced long-term planning. Crop rotation narrowed, soil degraded. Europe would not rediscover Roman-scale agricultural efficiency for centuries. And even now, many Roman practices remain misunderstood or ignored. A civilization fed by intelligence, not excess. Rome did not survive because it conquered because it survived, because it fed itself, because it respected the limits of land, because it planned beyond a single lifetime. Its agricultural secrets were not magic, they were patience, observation, and restraint. And perhaps that's why they were forgotten. Rome did not feed itself with small farms alone. That is one of the most persistent misunderstandings about the ancient world. The image of the humble Roman farmer, stooped, solitary, plowing a modest field, is true, but it is incomplete. Because behind that image stood something far larger, a system, a machine of land, labor, law, and logistics so vast that it functioned almost invisibly until it failed. The rise of the great estates. As Rome expanded, land changed hands. Victorious generals were rewarded with territory. Political allies received estates. Debt pushed small farmers to sell. Slowly, quietly, Italy's countryside transformed. Small plots merged into vast agricultural domains known as latifundia. These were not chaotic slave plantations, as later imagination would suggest. They were organized, measured, planned, managed with precision that would feel familiar to modern agribusiness. Each estate specialized. Grain fields stretched across plains, vineyards climbed hillsides, olive groves occupied rocky soils where wheat would fail. Rome learned early that land should not be forced, it should be assigned. Slavery was labor, not ignorance. Roman fields worked slaves. That fact cannot be erased. But the assumption that enslaved labor meant crude farming is wrong. Roman agricultural writers, men like Cato, Varro, and Columella, wrote in obsessive detail about soil quality, seasonal timing, crop spacing, and workforce organization. Slaves were trained, supervised by skilled overseers, rotated between tasks, specialized into plowmen, pruners, irrigators, press operators. Efficiency was not optional. Rome could not afford inefficiency. The mathematics of feeding an empire. Grain was not just grown, it was calculated. Roman administrators estimated yields years in advance. They tracked weather patterns. They adjusted planting schedules across provinces. When drought threatened Italy, shipments increased from Africa. When Nile floods ran low, reserves were released. This required record-keeping.